The age of the Earth is something that has been debated for over 6,000 years. The young Earth creationists' arguments are never very solid, but today Joe from Off the Kirb Ministries thinks he has cracked it. How, I hear you ask? With erosion. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, a big thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is building the smartest way to master back-end development by tackling the hardest problem with e-learning, boredom. The folks at Boot.dev believe that the smartest way to learn code is to make sure that you're never bored. Boot.dev is online, self-paced, and feels like a captivating RPG game. You will learn back-end web development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages. And it's designed to get you writing a ton of code, because getting your hands on the keyboard and shipping projects is the only way to learn. You will earn XP, levels, achievements, and complete quests to get top spots on global leaderboards. And the great thing about Boot.dev is if you ever struggle to understand a concept, Boots, a powerful bear wizard that's been trained on each lesson, can walk you through your issues. He's an AI that will ask you questions to help you understand rather than hand you the answers. And on top of that, the Boot.dev Discord community is active and they're there to help if you ever get stuck on your coding challenges. They never want a student feeling like they've spent money on something that's not helping them, so they offer a 30-day no questions asked refund policy and a free demo of every course and its interactive features. Click the link in the description and use my code SIMONDAN to get 25% off your first payment towards Boot.dev. That's 25% off your first month or your first year, depending on which subscription you choose. Right, on with today's video and Joe from Off the Kirb Ministries. He thinks the Earth is 6,000 years old and apparently he has evidence. Away we go.
I am going to get some hate for this video because the world is not 4.5 billion years old, and this is why. Hemsby is an English seaside town living on the edge, quite literally, because if you look closely, you'll see these exact landmarks 30 years ago, and this is them today. So fast is the erosion of these cliffs that in December 2023, some of the residents lost their sheds, gardens, and entire houses to the retreating cliff edge.
Now, don't clean your ears out. Joe actually does think that the concept of erosion proves that the Earth is not 4.5 billion years old.
So, if you're an atheist, you solve my problem for me.
With pleasure, Joe.
If the Earth really is billions of years old, and if there are places quite literally all around the world, just like Hemsby, which are receding quicker than my hairline, how is it that we have any land left? Surely at this rate, it wouldn't even take 1 million years to eat up much of the Earth. Or will you tell me that places like Hemsby were 100 miles bigger 1 billion years ago?
No, I'm not going to tell you that. But I am going to do this. Let's look at that rate of erosion, shall we? Doing a bit of research, you can find out that the erosion rate at Hemsby is around 1 metre per year. So, with that in mind, and knowing that Hemsby to the other side of the UK in Wales is 394,000 metres, it would take 394,000 years then to erode all the way across the UK. But of course that's not how erosion works. The cliffs in Hemsby are made of soft sand, silt and gravel. The second you hit rock, that erosion rate is going to slow down significantly. In around the same time frame, rock has been eroded just a few centimetres. But that's still not the whole story. Over time, land is added to continents too, with island arcs, seamounts and accretion wedges. The cycle of erosion and accretion goes on and on and on. To say that the Earth is young because one town in Norfolk is losing its sandy cliffs is quite simply nonsensical. That good enough for you, Joe?
But I hear you. You're saying, Joe, can't you be a born-again Christian and believe in an old Earth and also in macroevolution? Well, I want to talk about that a little bit later. Right now, though, I want you to answer this question for me. Because if you go to Utah, you will find a place that will make you think twice about the age of the Earth. Arches National Park has 2,000 rock arches, and I quote, their explanation for this is because millions of years of erosion and weathering are responsible.
Yes, the entire surface was raised up around 15 million years ago, Now that's relatively recent.
However, something isn't quite adding up here, because between the years 1977 and 2015, the park rangers have reported that 43 of these rock arches have collapsed due to further erosion, they say. So if you do the maths, that's on average 1 per year. So here's my big question. If the Earth was even 100,000 years old, how would we have any left?
Well, first off, you have been a little bit misleading here, Joe, because the last arch to collapse in the Arches National Park was around 2008. Additionally, people used to walk all over the arches and even drive over them, which has now been banned. Maybe though, maybe we're just in a tiny snapshot of time, where those arches just so happen to be coming to the end of their lives, and we just so happen to be alive to witness it.
Of course they can't take millions of years to form, but it actually seems more likely that they are 4,000 years old, which of course makes sense if you believe, like me, that they were formed after the biblical account of Noah's flood.
Why 4,000 years? Why is that more likely? What's the evidence for that?
Come on, let's be honest with one another. It's no secret that the most quoted line from the atheist is this: the burden of proof is on you.
Exactly. So why 4,000 years?
Well, I'm okay if you want to say that, because I want to say to you, Mr. or Mrs. Atheist, just open your eyes. Look at the beautiful world around you, and if you look at pretty much any landmark, you will see evidence that the Earth is young.
No, you see evidence of weathering and erosion. That does not mean young Earth.
Niagara Falls, on average, goes back 1 foot every year. So why is it that it hasn't cut through 200 million feet of Earth yet, since the Pangaea supercontinent split?
Niagara Falls is only 12,000 years old, and it's estimated that at its current erosion rate, it will eventually erode the rest of the 32 kilometres of rock and cease to exist. So you sort of debunked yourself by mentioning Niagara Falls. It has not existed since Pangaea split up.
There's even a rock named after Charles Darwin in the Galapagos Islands, and guess what? In May 2021, it collapsed. I'm kind of angry at myself that I didn't get a picture of this, but this was long before I was making YouTube videos, and I got an opportunity to have a cave tour in the Peak District. And the guide, as lovely as she was telling us all around you are stalactites and stalagmites that are 2 million years old. And as she was speaking, one of my friends was leaning on a brand new steel railing. It can only have been a few years old. And my friend, who was also a Christian, just nudged me and pointed to a stalagmite that was about 2 or 3 inches long, growing on this brand new steel railing. And he sort of whispered in my ear, they must think that we're stupid. If it takes millions of years for these 7-foot stalactites to grow, why is it that one of these little guys can grow so quickly in the space of a few years?
Are you seriously asking that question? The volume of a giant stalactite on a ceiling like that compared to a tiny little one on those steel bars is not even comparable.
Okay. I can't believe I'm about to do this, but I'm about to tell you why I believe macroevolution is totally false. And as I've already mentioned, later in the video I want to talk about why some Christians do believe in theistic evolution. And I've actually got another video all about that, so make sure you subscribe if you'd like to see that. But right now I'm going to tell you why I personally cannot buy into this idea of species to species evolution.
That picture, by the way, is ridiculous and does not show species to species. They are all cousins, descended from a common ancestor. You don't even understand evolution. That's the issue here.
Now, I'm not going to stand here and pretend that I'm some kind of expert. We both know that I'm not. I can barely spell my name on a good day. But here's the reason why I'm not about to jump onto the evolution bus in any hurry. The reason is this: they still haven't found the missing link. So, just stop me if I get something wrong. But if we really did evolve from a common ancestor, you'd expect us to find millions and millions of these pre-human fragments and bones in the ground. You'd expect to see them all around the world. And yet, we only have a handful. And the ones that we do have, can I say this? They look a little sketchy when you dig a little deeper.
How are fossils formed, Joe? Animals or ancient humans need to be buried quickly after they die in sediment. Please tell me how you would expect millions of individuals to die in a manner where that would happen. Again, you don't understand evolution. Oh, and also, a minute ago you said we've never found a missing link, and now you're saying we found a handful. Make your mind up.
You may want to write this down because Professor Stephen Jay Gould...
Stephen Jay Gould? Bloody hell, Joe, come on, it's Stephen Jay Gould.
A non-Christian paleontologist and the author of many books on why evolution is great, many books on biology.
Even the books on the screen are showing his name.
Even he admits that most hominid fossils, even though they serve as a basis for endless speculation and elaborate storytelling, are fragments of jaws and scraps of skulls.
Stephen Jay Gould died in 2002. We found countless hominid fossils since then.
In other words, evolutionists are doing the exact thing that they attribute to creationists like me. They are building huge narratives around a tiny piece of evidence.
Well, not really, because you guys are building huge narratives around no evidence.
Just to support their theory. Take a look at this. This is Java Man, a supposed 1.5 million year old subhuman who is proof, according to the evolutionists, that we evolved. Except there is little evidence that Java Man is even remotely ape-like. Below the neck, he is almost identical to your modern man, and even his brain size is within our range.
We have discovered almost 20 hominid species other than ourselves. 20. Java Man is of the species Homo erectus. It was a hominid species, so why would it not be similar to humans?
And where his skeleton was found, did you know there was also very advanced tools found in the same area? Which leads us to believe that Java Man was much more intelligent than we are being told, and he was likely just a fully formed human being, just like you and just like me.
Not really. They had smaller brains than us, smaller teeth and larger eye ridges. They were shorter and had heavily built but less prominent jaws. There are many differences. Similarities too, of course, but Homo sapiens they were not.
You've probably already heard of Neanderthals, but the same story goes for those guys. Their remains are often found next to fashion tools, and new research is even claiming that Neanderthals were the first artists who were able to paint these old cave paintings. But the artists that we have today, what do? Well, they portray Neanderthals as very primitive ape-like creatures. But the reality is, if a Neanderthal stepped in front of you, you would find it very hard to distinguish the difference between him and a modern man. Okay.
Well, I'm not surprised. Neanderthals were the last remaining hominid species other than ourselves. Homo sapiens simply hunted, gathered and sexually selected them out of existence. In fact, according to a DNA test, I have just under 2% Neanderthal DNA in me. And there's only one place that could have come from.
Brace yourself, because this is the part where the missing link bandwagon really starts to fall to pieces. Meet Lucy. Lucy is probably one of the most famous examples that the evolutionist will hold up when they say we want to prove the missing link. But what they don't tell you is that in Lucy's skeleton, which is preserved at the National Museum of Ethiopia, one of the fossils, which is supposed to be part of one of the bones of Lucy, was tested and has come back as a baboon's bone.
So one bone was found to be a baboon bone. One. The rest belonged to the hominid species Australopithecus afarensis. Nothing to say about those 40 odd bones, no?
So, am I the only one when I hear that? It kind of makes me think, doesn't that discredit the rest of the collection?
Not really, because the rest of the collection are not baboon bones.
Not only that, in all of the depictions that we see of Lucy, we see her as an upright, upward walking being, just like us. But nowhere does any scientist ever claim to have been able to find Lucy's feet.
Ah, well, that's that then. Definitely can't walk upright if she hasn't got feet. Dear oh dear, I've had it with Joe for today. Extremely poor arguments, just the worst. What do you think, everyone? Did it make a good case or not? Let me know in the comments below, but for now, we're all done and debunked for another Tinfoil Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching, it is truly appreciated. Please do subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed that one. We're getting closer to 550,000 now. We'll have another little celebration when we get there. And if you really enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button too. Just enough time to once again thank boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. Remember, click the link in the description, use the code SIMANDAN and you get 25% off your first purchase towards boot.dev. That's 25% off your first month or your first year, depending on which subscription you choose. I've been Simon Dan, have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the next debunking flat earth meme video. See you then.